Have you ever met someone who makes you feel inspired just by the way they talk? Not because they're the loudest in the room, not because they have all the answers, but because something about them feels so genuine, so clear, like they truly believe in what they're doing. That's the kind of person we call a leader. And according to Simon Sinek, that's the secret behind how great leaders inspire action. They start with one powerful word, why. You see, most people know what they do. Some even know how they do it. But very few can clearly explain why they do it. Why they get up every morning, why their work matters, why anyone should care. And that, Simon says, is what separates those who simply exist from those who inspire. In this video, we're diving into Simon Sinek's timeless idea from his talk and book, Start With Why. It's not just a theory for CEOs or entrepreneurs. It's a framework that can change the way you live, work, and lead. By the end of this video, you'll understand one quote from Simon Sinek that might just change the way you see your purpose. So let's start there, with the heart of his message. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. At first glance, it sounds simple, almost too simple. But think about it. When you choose a brand, a leader, or even a friend to follow, it's not just about what they do. It's about how they make you feel. Apple doesn't just sell phones. They sell the belief that technology should challenge the status quo, that creativity belongs to everyone. That's their why. And it's why millions of people feel emotionally connected to them. Simon Sinek explains that great leaders like Martin Luther King Jr., Steve Jobs, or the Wright brothers all inspired people by communicating from the inside out. They didn't start with what they were doing. They started with why it mattered. That belief, that purpose, was contagious. And here's the beautiful part. It's not about being famous or powerful. It's about clarity. When you know your why, people don't just listen to you. They believe in you. So let me ask you, if someone asked you right now, why do you do what you do? Could you answer it? Not the surface level answer like, to make money or to provide for my family. But the deeper one, the one that fuels you when things get hard, the one that keeps you going even when no one's watching. If you can't answer that yet, don't worry. That's exactly where most people start. And the good news is, that's where true leadership begins. There are only two ways to influence human behavior. You can manipulate it, or you can inspire it. Simon's second key idea hits deep. Most people in organizations manipulate. They use discounts, rewards, fear, or pressure to get results. And yes, it works for a while. But inspiration? That lasts. Think about the leaders who've made a real impact in your life. Maybe a teacher, a coach, or even a friend. They didn't push you through fear. They pulled you through belief. They made you want to try harder because they made you feel seen. That's what real leadership is. It's not about controlling others. It's about lighting a fire in them, one that keeps burning even when you're not there. When you lead from inspiration, you don't have to chase people to follow you. They choose to, because they're not following you, they're following what you stand for. And here's where Simon's wisdom becomes more than theory. It becomes a practice. Ask yourself, in my work, my relationships, my goals, am I manipulating or am I inspiring? If you start shifting that answer toward inspiration, everything changes. How you communicate, how people respond to you, and even how you see yourself. Now that we've uncovered the foundation of Simon Sinek's idea, the power of why and the difference between manipulation and inspiration, it's time to go deeper. In part 2, we'll explore how great leaders turn that why into action, how they build trust, communicate with authenticity, and create movements that last. So stay with me, because the next part might just reveal the secret ingredient behind every inspiring leader you've ever admired. Now that we've uncovered the foundation, the power of why, let's go one step further. Because knowing your purpose is only half the journey. The real test? It's getting others to believe in it too. And that's where trust comes in. Simon Sinek once said, "Trust is built on telling people what you believe, and then proving it with your actions." It sounds simple, right? But in a world where most people say one thing and do another, true consistency is rare. And that's why it's powerful. Think about someone you really trust. Maybe it's a mentor, a colleague, or a friend. What makes you trust them? It's not that they're perfect, it's that they're predictable in their values. You know what they stand for. Even when things go wrong, you know they'll handle it in a way that aligns with who they are. That's exactly how great leaders operate. They don't pretend to be flawless. They're authentic. They communicate openly, admit mistakes, and stay grounded in their why, especially when it's hard. And that's what makes people want to follow them. Simon often reminds us that leadership is not about being in charge. It's about taking care of those in your charge. That one line changes everything because it shifts leadership from authority to service, from ego to empathy. You don't need a title to lead. You just need to care and to show it. The circle of safety. Simon uses a beautiful concept called the circle of safety. He says that in any team or organization, people perform best when they feel safe, not physically, but emotionally. When they know they can share ideas without being judged. When they know their leader will protect them from external threats, not throw them under the bus. Imagine working in a place where you're afraid to speak up, afraid to fail, or afraid to be yourself. That's not leadership. That's survival. And when people operate in survival mode, creativity dies, innovation dies, even motivation fades. But in a strong culture, one built on trust, people don't compete against each other. They compete for each other. They lift one another up because they believe in the same cause. That's how movements start, not through pressure or fear, but through shared belief. And when a leader creates that kind of environment, people stop working for them. They start working with them, communicating from the inside out. Remember Simon's golden circle. It's the core of his idea. 3 simple layers. Why, how, course, why, how, what. The most inspiring leaders communicate from the inside out. They start with why, the belief. Then explain how, the process. And finally, what, the result. Most people do it backwards. They start with what they do, hoping people will figure out why it matters. But the truth is, people don't buy what you do. They buy why you do it. Let's take an example. When Martin Luther King Jr. gave his famous speech, he didn't say, "I have a plan." He said, "I have a dream." He didn't explain policy or process. He spoke from the heart, from belief, and that belief inspired millions to act not because they had to, but because they wanted to. That's the difference between communication that informs and communication that inspires. Information speaks to the mind. Inspiration speaks to the heart. And when you learn to communicate your why, clearly, honestly, emotionally, you stop needing to convince people. They'll feel it. And once they feel it, they'll follow. Authenticity over perfection. Here's something Simon Sinek repeats often. People would rather follow a leader who is real than one who is always right. Let that sink in for a second. Because in our highlight-driven world, we're taught to show only our wins, to hide our doubts, our failures, our flaws. But great leaders do the opposite. They share their struggles. They let others see that leadership isn't about having it all figured out. It's about being brave enough to keep showing up. When you lead with authenticity, you give permission for others to be human too. And that's when trust deepens, connections grow, and teams thrive. So far, we've talked about knowing your why, building trust, and communicating with authenticity. But there's still one crucial piece left. The part that transforms ideas into lasting impact. Because inspiration means nothing without action. And that's what we're exploring next. In Part 3, we'll dive into how great leaders turn belief into movement, how they keep people motivated, create momentum, and leave a legacy that outlives them. It's where everything comes together. So take a deep breath, because the best part is yet to come. Now that we've explored how great leaders build trust and communicate with authenticity, there's one final piece left, and it's the one that separates dreamers from doers, because inspiration without action is just a nice idea. Simon Sinek says it perfectly. Leadership is not about the next election, it's about the next generation. And that's the mindset that turns a vision into something that truly lasts. Great leaders don't just inspire people once. They keep that belief alive through consistent action. They understand that every decision, every choice, every word they speak becomes part of their message. No. They lead by example, not just by motivation. And the beautiful thing is, this kind of leadership isn't reserved for CEOs or world leaders. It starts with you. The ripple effect of purpose. Imagine dropping a single stone into a still pond. The ripples move outward, touching every part of the water, even the parts farthest away. That's what happens when you lead with purpose. Every time you act from your why, when you treat someone with kindness, when you choose integrity over comfort, when you stand up for what you believe in, you create ripples. And those ripples inspire others to do the same. Simon Sinek calls this the ripple of trust. Because true leadership isn't about how many people follow you. It's about how many leaders you create. It's about sparking belief in others so they too begin to act from their own why. And maybe you won't always see the impact right away. But it's there. In the people you mentor, in the ones who watch how you handle pressure, in the quiet moments when your consistency gives others courage. That's leadership. Not loud, not flashy, but powerful because it's real. Courage over comfort. Simon once said, the courage of leadership is giving others the chance to succeed, even though you bear the responsibility for getting things wrong. That's a kind of bravery that not everyone has. Because let's be honest, leadership can be lonely. You'll make decisions people won't understand. You'll take risks that might fail. But great leaders don't act out of fear of failure. They act out of faith in their purpose. They know that courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the decision to move forward in spite of it. And that's where growth happens. Not in comfort, but in the willingness to lead even when the outcome isn't guaranteed. Every time you choose courage over comfort, you strengthen your why. You become a living example of the belief you stand for. And that's what makes people trust you, not because you're perfect, but because you're real, consistent, and brave enough to care. From belief to legacy, in the end, all great leaders leave something behind, but it's not a product or a brand or a company. It's belief. Martin Luther King Jr. didn't just fight for civil rights. He passed on a dream. Steve Jobs didn't just create devices. He passed on a way of thinking that continues to inspire innovation today. Their why didn't die with them. It lived on in the people they inspired, and that's the ultimate goal of leadership, to build something that outlives you, to create a sense of purpose so clear that others continue it long after you're gone. And you can start that today, right where you are. You don't need a title. You don't need an audience. All you need is the willingness to live your why, to act with integrity, and to lead with heart. Because every time you do, you remind others that leadership isn't about position. It's about permission. Permission to be human, to care, to believe. Closing message. So let's bring this full circle. Simon Sinek's message, start with why, isn't just about success. It's about meaning. Because when you know your why, you stop chasing validation and start creating value. You stop seeking attention and start earning trust. You stop trying to be impressive and start becoming impactful. And maybe that's what the world needs right now. Not more noise, but more clarity. Not more managers, but more leaders who inspire by example. If this message spoke to you, take a moment to reflect. What's your why? What belief do you want to stand for, no matter where life takes you? Share it in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts and your journey. Because when you speak your why out loud, it starts to take shape. And if you found this video inspiring, give it a like and subscribe to the channel for more conversations like this. Stories, insights, and lessons to help you grow as a leader and as a human being. Remember, leadership isn't about changing the whole world at once. It's about changing one person's world, even if that person is you. So keep believing, keep acting, and keep inspiring, because your why could be the spark that changes everything.